I've seen more logic at family dinners. Today's arguments came with volume, not value. I'm Ethan Blake, and this debate left truth waiting outside.
Cruz, thank you.
Thank you. What we're seeing is not the rule of law. It's lawfare. These lawsuits aren't meant to succeed on the merits. They're designed to exhaust, to intimidate, and to destroy America's energy sector. Death by 1,000 cuts. We've even seen private parties get in on the act. One of the most infamous examples was Juliana versus United States, where 21 people sued the federal government claiming that allowing climate change to persist violated their due process rights. A federal district judge in Oregon actually agreed, comparing the right to a stable climate to the right to same-sex marriage. She was prepared to enjoin the entire federal government, effectively putting the energy industry into judicial receivership at the behest of, quote, children. Fortunately, the Ninth Circuit, by far the most liberal court of appeals in the country, shut it down, and eventually a unanimous Supreme Court did as well. Funded by deep-pocketed climate activists and left-wing dark money, the anti-American energy lobby and its allies in the plaintiffs' bar have initiated dozens of civil lawsuits against American energy producers. These suits, which assert state law claims under dubious nuisance, tort, or consumer protection theories, are properly preempted by federal law. Nevertheless, they have proliferated across the country, and they are exposing energy producers to potentially trillions of dollars in damages. There are now more than 30 active lawsuits across the country accusing energy producers of misleading the public about carbon emissions and climate change. If successful, these suits could destroy millions of jobs and raise the energy cost of every consumer in America. Let me start with the legal foundations. General Kobach, have any of these climate lawsuits, brought under public nuisance or similar theories, been upheld on the merits by a federal appellate court?
No, Senator, and none of them have been upheld on the merits by a state appellate court either. The case that is closest to a higher level decision right now is the Baltimore case, Baltimore versus BP. It's several consolidated cases. That's basically a case where Baltimore is suing the fossil fuel industry defendants for climate change generally. A lot of these others are more specific, like shale oil production or plastics, but they're just global warming. And the district court in Baltimore ruled against the plaintiffs on all 8 grounds. That's a pretty big deal. And they now are appealing to the state Supreme Court. That one will probably be decided later this year, early next year, but that's the biggest or nearest chance the plaintiffs have to achieving a victory, but they have got no victories so far.
And isn't it true that many of these suits are brought by cities and counties that lack the legal standing to assert injuries on behalf of the entire public?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, and that's what I was alluding to when I mentioned Parens Patriae. That's the state has the responsibility. Parens Patriae is Latin, of course, for parent or father of the country, and the state attorney general, which represents the state at large, has that sovereignty. Our Constitution contemplates that states have sovereignty, and they conceded some of that sovereignty to the federal government. But localities are creations of state government. Localities do not possess the sovereignty the state does. And so while some people may be upset that we have 50 states and the states take different positions in some of these legal cases, the states have at least the right to represent their residents. Cities do not. Counties do not. And so it massively multiplies the potential plaintiffs out there, and it becomes nonsensical in a legal sense for a city in one end of a state and a city on the opposite end of the state to both purport to represent the residents of the same state. And in the cases I mentioned, they're purporting to, in a class action format, represent all representatives, represent all citizens and residents of every county in America. So they've taken public nuisance theory to a bizarre extreme, and they've also usurped the authority of state attorneys general.
Well, that may help explain why they are losing so many of these cases. Mr. Walter, Cher Edling has filed dozens of climate lawsuits. Are they being paid by the government entities they represent or by anonymous left-wing donor networks like the New Venture Fund?
I believe the vast majority of the funding comes from the outside funders, yes.
Isn't it also true that one of the biggest sources of funding for U.S.-based environmental litigation groups is Energy Foundation China, an organization run by a former senior Chinese Communist Party official who helped craft the CCP's 5-year energy plans?
Energy Foundation China channels tens of millions of dollars to numerous environmental groups, yes.
Now, Mr. Walter, my Democrat colleagues have said that's a crazy conspiracy theory. What is the basis for saying that Energy Foundation China is funneling so many millions of dollars into these suits?
Well, their own IRS filings, because they're a 501c3 registered in San Francisco.
If this were really about reducing emissions, wouldn't we expect Energy Foundation China to give a damn about the worst polluter on the face of the planet, that being Communist China?
That would be logical, yes, Senator.
And yet, their lawsuits are designed to destroy the American energy industry, which happens to perfectly coincide with the political objective of Senate Democrats to destroy the American energy industry. Would the result of that help or hurt America, and would it help or hurt China?
Well, obviously, it would help China vis-a-vis the United States, and it would certainly be highly problematic for everyone in the United States.
Thank you. Senator Whitehouse.
Death by 1,000 cuts. My God, has a more accurate phrase ever been spoken in the halls of Congress? I feel a chill listening to that, not because it's a clever line, but because it's the absolute truth. It's a strategy of relentless, venomous attacks designed to bleed our most vital industries dry. And then we get to the Juliana versus United States case. My blood pressure spikes every time I hear it mentioned. This isn't just some legal footnote. This was a judicial coup in the making. 21 people backed by the full force of the climate activist machine sue the government, claiming their due process rights were violated by the weather, and a federal judge in Oregon agreed with them. She compared the right to a stable climate, a phrase they invented out of thin air, to the right to same-sex marriage. Are you kidding me? The sheer audacity, the unbridled arrogance of that comparison is breathtaking. This wasn't a ruling, it was a radical decree. She was prepared on her own authority to put the entire American energy industry into judicial receivership. Let me translate that for you. One unelected activist judge was about to seize control of our nation's power grid, our oil and gas production, our economic lifeblood, all at the demand of a handful of plaintiffs. It's tyranny masquerading as jurisprudence. And thank God, and I mean that sincerely, thank God the Ninth Circuit, the most liberal, left-leaning court in the entire country, had enough sense to see this for the constitutional abomination it was and shut it down. Even they couldn't stomach it. It tells you just how far off the rails this agenda has gone. Now, let's get to the man who brings the facts, General Kobach. The senator asks a simple, devastating question. Have any of these climate lawsuits been upheld on the merits by a federal appellate court? And Kobach's answer? A simple, beautiful no. My friends, listen to that. No. He follows it up with, none of them have been upheld on the merits by a state appellate court either. Zero. Zilch. Nada. For all the media hysteria, for all the breathless headlines, for all the trillions of dollars they demand in damages, they haven't won a single significant case on the merits. They are serial losers. Why? Because their entire legal theory is a fraud. And this is where it gets even more infuriating. The senator points out that these lawsuits are brought by cities and counties. General Kobach then explains the legal doctrine of parens patriae, the father of the country. It's the state, through its attorney general, that has the sovereign right to represent its people. But what do we have here? A city in California or a county in Colorado trying to sue on behalf of the entire planet? It's a legal absurdity. As Kobach says, it's a bizarre extreme. They are usurping the authority of the states, shredding the Constitution, and creating legal anarchy, all in pursuit of their radical goal. It's an open rebellion against our system of government by activist mayors and county commissioners who are drunk on power and funded by dark money. Which brings us to the core of it all, the question that unravels the entire conspiracy. Mr. Walter is asked, Are these law firms being paid by the cities they represent or by anonymous left-wing donor networks? His answer is the key that unlocks everything. I believe the vast majority of the funding comes from the outside funders. Of course it does. These cities don't have this kind of money. This is an orchestrated professional political hit job. And now we get to the puppet masters. The senator names the name Energy Foundation China, an organization run by a former senior official of the Chinese Communist Party, an official who helped craft the CCP's energy plans. And what does this CCP-linked foundation do? It funnels tens of millions of dollars into the very environmental groups that are suing to destroy American energy. And when patriots point this out, what do the Democrats and their media allies call it? A crazy conspiracy theory. That's their go-to defense. Just mock, dismiss, and hope you don't look at the evidence. But as Mr. Walter so brilliantly points out, the evidence isn't hidden in some secret file. It's in their own IRS filings. They are bragging about it. This isn't a theory. It's a paper trail that leads directly from the Chinese Communist Party to the American courtroom. The final exchange is the kill shot. The logic is so pure, so undeniable, it exposes the entire charade. If this were truly about reducing emissions, wouldn't Energy Foundation China give a damn about the biggest polluter on the face of the planet, Communist China? The silence is deafening. The answer is obvious. That would be logical, yes, but they don't. Their lawsuits are designed with surgical precision to attack one target and one target only, the United States of America, to destroy our energy industry. And, wouldn't you know it, that goal happens to perfectly coincide with the political objective of Senate Democrats. So let me ask the final question the senator poses, and I want you to truly think about the answer. Destroying American energy. Does that help or hurt America? Does that help or hurt China? Mr. Walter's answer is chilling in its simplicity. Obviously, it would help China. And it would certainly be highly problematic for everyone in the United States. There it is, the entire scheme laid bare. This isn't environmentalism. This is economic warfare, bankrolled by our greatest geopolitical rival and executed by their willing accomplices right here at home. They are using our own courts to achieve the CCP's strategic goals. They want to make us weaker, poorer, and more dependent, while China grows stronger. This isn't about a stable climate. It's about destabilizing America. It's a fight for our sovereignty, our prosperity, and our freedom. And after seeing this, how can anyone not be ready for that fight?